Second grade, welcome to Math Lesson 13. Today we are going to be able to use math drawings or pictures on the computer in our case to partition a rectangle with square tiles and relate it to repeated addition. You'll notice I underlined that word partition. To partition something simply means to divide it up. So we're going to take that rectangle and divide it up using our square tiles like we've been practicing with. And we're going to be able to relate that to repeated addition. Let's go ahead and get started. You remember from past lessons that we have been working with rectangles and we have been partitioning, dividing up, or splitting them up into smaller square tiles, kind of like this. So we've been making arrays using square tiles. So today we're going to be working with a rectangle like this, but we're going to be shading in or coloring in parts of it to make specific arrays. So for example, it says shade or color in an array of 3 rows of 3. Remember, again, rows go from side to side, from left to right. Think about it. If you were asked to color in 3 rows of 3 on this rectangle, what would that look like? Get that picture in your mind? It would look something like this. Now I've chosen 3 different shades of blue just to represent the different rows. So you can see we have 1 row of 3, 2 rows of 3, 3 rows of 3. So there are certain things we know to be true about this array. This array has 3 rows with 3 square tiles in each row. If we were going to make a repeated addition equation to match this array, what might that look like? Take the number of rows and how many are in each row, add them up, and get your total. So think about that in your brain. And then how many square tiles in total is this array? We can figure that out by counting them up or by doing the repeated addition. So we know we've got our 3 rows of 3. Our repeated addition equation is 3 rows of 3 square tiles. So 1 row of 3, a second row of 3, and a third row of 3. If you add 3 plus 3 plus 3, you get 9. You can skip count. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. Or to confirm, you can just count each square tile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So how many square tiles are there altogether in this array? Yeah, there are 9. Great job. Let's try another one. Again, we're starting with our blank rectangle. We want to shade in an array of 4 columns of 2. So rows go from side to side. Columns go up and down, top to bottom. Thinking of how you would show 4 columns of 2. Picture that on this rectangle. It would look something like this. And again, I've chosen 2 colors just to show you the different rows or columns. Okay? So if we're looking at columns, they go up and down. There's a column of 2. There's a second column of 2. A third column of 2. And a fourth column of 2. Okay, so we've got our 4 columns with 2 tiles in each column. What would a repeated addition equation look like for that? Think in your brain. And how many square tiles are there in this array? So 2 questions. What repeated addition equation could you write? And how many square tiles is this array? Think about it. Right. So we started with what we knew. We had 4 columns of 2 square tiles. If we are writing a repeated addition equation, 1 column of 2 plus another column of 2 plus another column of 2 plus another column of 2. We have 4 columns of 2. And altogether that gives us 8. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. So we have 8 tiles all together. We can figure that out through the repeated addition, or if you want to double check, just count them quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these are all true statements about this array. Okay, let's look at another one. We're going to shade in or color an array of 6 columns of 3. 6 columns, remember columns, up and down, top to bottom. What is that array going to look like? 6 columns of 3. Think about it in your brain. It's going to look something like this. And again, I just split up the colors just to make it easier to see the rows and columns. So 6 columns going up and down of 3. So there's a column of 3, second column of 3, third column of 3, fourth column of 3, fifth column of 3, sixth column of 3. Remember, columns up and down. Okay? So when we're thinking about turning this into a repeated addition equation, when we want that repeated addition to match, what is that going to look like? There's a hint. You can already see the numbers up here. What is it going to look like? And how many square tiles in total is this array? Think about it. Put your finger on your nose when you know. Right. With our 6 columns of 3, it's 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and that equals 18 in all. So 18 tiles altogether. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18. Or 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. So 6 plus 6 is 12. Plus another 6 is 18. So that's one way to look at this array. But remember, arrays can be split into rows and columns. So if I stop looking at columns and instead I look at rows, so going side to side, left to right, how many rows are in this array? Yeah, there are 3 rows. Here's a row, here's a row, and here's a row. And how many square tiles are in each row? Right, 6 square tiles in each row. So if we're looking at rows for this array instead of columns, what we know is we have 3 rows of 6 instead of 6 columns of 3. Our repeated addition equation, the answer doesn't change, but the repeated addition does, because now we're looking at rows instead of columns. So in each row, there are 6 square tiles, and there are 1, 2, 3 rows. So it's 6 3 times, which tells us there are 18 tiles altogether, because 6 plus 6 is 12, and 12 plus 6 is 18. I want you to look carefully at this, second grade. Sometimes more than one thing can be true about an array. We can talk about the columns and we can tell how many columns there are, or we can talk about rows and tell how many rows there are. We can make a repeated addition equation to match the columns, or we can make a repeated addition equation to match the rows. What doesn't change is the total number of tiles. In your array, your total's always going to be the same. Look at, when we look at columns, it's 18. When we look at rows, it's 18. How many tiles altogether? 18, 18. Doesn't change. What does change is how you're looking at it. Are you looking at rows or are you looking at columns? Does that mean that one is true and the other isn't? No, just a different way of looking at things. So that brings us to our last part of today's lesson. We're going to select all of the statements that describe this array. I say all because more than one of these statements is true. There's more than one thing here that is a true statement about the array. You're going to see this on your work today and on your quiz tomorrow. So it's really important that you take your time to look at this and think which parts are true and which are not true about the array. So here's the array. I'm just going to go through part by part and just figure out if it's true or not. So is this array showing me 4 columns of 3? So do I have 4 columns going up and down? Let's look. 1, 2, 3. That says 4 columns. So is that true or false? You're right, that's false. There are 3 columns here in this array, not 4. Okay, let's look at the next one. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. So can I have 3 4 times, and does that make 12? Let me see. Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. But it doesn't have to be columns. I can look at rows. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, that's 1. 1, 2, 3, that's 2. 1, 2, 3, that's 3. 1, 2, 3, that's 4. So I just counted 4 groups of 3. And does that make 12? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That seems right. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. Yeah, so that statement is true. That statement fits with this array. Now, if I just figured out that there were 12 tiles in this array, would it make sense to say there's 15 tiles altogether? No, we can easily rule that one out. How about this one? 4 rows of 3. Let's see, rows go side to side, so that should be pretty easy to figure out. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 rows, that part's right. And is there 3 in each row? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that one's also correct. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here's another repeated addition equation. Well, this one said 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. This one also equals 12, so maybe there's another way of looking at it. Let's see, 4 rows of 3. So, okay, well, that one would match this, 4 rows of 3. Maybe this is columns? Let's look at the columns. Here's 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns. How many tiles are in each column going up and down? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's one group of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a second group of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a third group of 4. 1, 2, 3. 3 groups of 4 equals 12. Well, I already know the answer is 12 because I did a math equation. So what do you think about this one? True or false? If you said true, kiss your brain. You're right. There are 2 different repeated addition equations. Just like the problem we looked at right before this, you can look at columns or you can look at rows. Your repeated addition is going to be different, but the total or the answer is going to be the same. So that brings us to our last one, 3 columns of 4. Let's see if you can figure this one out. Columns go up and down. Are there 3 columns of 4 in this array? When you have your answer, put your hand on your head. Okay, let's see if you were correct. If you chose true or false, let's see. Yes, correct. If you are correct, give yourself a big pat on the back and say, I did it. Good job. There are 4 statements here that are true about this array. We have 2 different repeated addition equations. We know that they're both true because there are 12 tiles in the array. We know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and we know that there are 1, 2, 3 columns. So second grade, again, don't get tricked. When they ask you to select all of the statements describing an array, you can choose more than one. Make sure you go through each possible answer to find out, is it true or is it false? Before we go, I want to look at your Google form for today and just flag that question that you're going to be choosing more than one answer. So it's the last question. It says, which of the following describe the array? Select all that are correct. There can be more than one correct answer. So you're going to look at the array, and you're going to go through each one and find out, is it true or is it false? And again, you can select more than one right answer, okay? Great job today, second grade. If you need to, you can go back in the video to look for help. See you later.